Um, Today is Monday, the 22nd. Happy Monday. Um, I know this isn't Gabrielle. This is Typhoon Ragasa, Super-Typhoon Ragasa, that one time had, not too long ago, had winds excess 180 miles an hour. Um, Very impressive storm here. And I forgot my pen up again. I keep doing that. One of these days I will not do that, maybe. So it's moving straight through the between Taiwan and the Philippines. You can see the impacts on northern Philippines and these islands here. It's got to be incredible. I wouldn't want to be there right now, especially on the right front quadrant. But it looks like the most precip and the highest winds are probably on the um, maybe on the right edge here. Yeah. Regardless, I wouldn't want to be there right now. So, um, just wanted to show you that because it's very impressive. And I want to compare it to Gabrielle in a minute. This is the track for the system. It's a little bit behind on its current position here, but you can see where it's forecast to move. Might be near Hong Kong by in a couple of days as a hurricane still. Um, then as it gets closer to the coast, it'll likely weaken. But if it does go inland, like it says here, it could bring a lot of heavy rainfall to China. It looks like so. There we are with that. So just interesting. We'll switch over to Gabrielle. Still trying to get organized this morning. Um, Look at the water vapor here. As it moves further away from this upper low, the shear is lessening, but you can see just to its north, there's some enhanced winds. So it has a maybe 24 hours before it starts to encounter more shear. So it still has opportunity to intensify, but because of its small size, likely the wind and rain impacts to Bermuda are going to be small. But of course, rip currents and waves on the southern-facing beaches are going to be a problem here. You see the outflow from it going down here and impacting this tropical wave right now down here. You see this low still spinning off to the southwest of Gabrielle. And we have other two potential tropical systems out here that I'm going to talk about today too. We'll get to that real quickly. This is the latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Excuse me. We have Gabrielle, 75 mile per hour hurricane. This disturbance is now have a 60% chance of development, and you have another disturbance is now up to 30% next 7 days, and the models are really starting to um, show these. In addition, it's also showing something may develop off the coast of Africa again um, in the next several days. So this is the latest key messages for Hurricane Gabrielle. It's it's hard to see, I guess, but and I'll show you more zoomed in a minute. But you can see the tropical storm force winds have a low probability of impacting Bermuda. Swells and rip currents are the biggest threat, like I said. This is the rip current risk for today along the East Coast, quite a bit. Reds and yellows. Okay, tomorrow, but about the same. Of course, it doesn't show Bermuda, but the reds are high risk of rip currents. Yellows, of course, moderate, and low is in the white areas or gray areas. Okay. This is an experimental cone, interactive. You can see the of Gabrielle. You can see the radius of maximum winds. Your hurricane force winds are very small areas surrounding the system here. Even tropical storm force winds are still heavily loaded on the right side. Forecasts become a major hurricane to the east of Bermuda. All right, so uh, most likely arrival of tropical storm force winds today sometime in the morning. Right, there's your past track. Okay, and there's your cone for hurricane force winds, 58 mile per hour winds, and tropical storm force winds. You see the probabilities are decreasing, maybe 5 to 10% chance of seeing tropical storm force winds in Bermuda. The biggest threat, I think, in the long term, maybe the Azores, but it remains to be seen if it stays tropical or extratropical. Well, then we'll just have to see. So that's that. I'm not downplaying the risk to Bermuda, but based on latest data, I'm not likely to see too many impacts. Like I said, besides some highways and rip currents along the east coast of the U.S. All right, so moving on to the future tropical development out here in the tropical Atlantic. So this is the Weather Nerds website. It shows all the lows associated with potential development here. This is a Google DeepMind, one of the ensembles that we look at. Gabrielle's up here. We have that other disturbance that the Hurricane Center is talking about, and the other one here. And this is initialized 2 days from now, roughly. And I'm going to put this into motion, okay? And Google DeepMind really wants to develop something out here, and then eventually develop this other low right off the around the Bahama area, and quite a lot of support uh, and for both of these systems. Some are more faster than others. You can see some of the weaker members taking in the cutting on the U.S. And this is 7 days from now. So we have the potential to have two tropical systems out here in the Atlantic in the next 7 days. And if you were to look at this model, you would say, well, it's definitely going to happen, but that's not what we do. We always look at model guidance and compare them all and see what they say. Going through time, in the deep mine, once again, another depression, maybe off the African coast. And it really wants to intensify, a lot of the members want to intensify this other system out here. The next one's going to be Umberto, whichever one potentially forms first, okay? And so next we'll look at the GEFS ensembles, which is 31 members. Going through time, doesn't really show anything on 24th like the DeepMind does. at all. Gets this low. It looks like it's developing this low off the Bahamas, the Caribbean, north of the Caribbean first, as compared to the deep mine, which is interesting. But uh, and also maybe some support for the Gulf of Mexico. This is at the 1st of October, so it really doesn't do much with this one out here, which is interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. And there's the euro. Back it up a little bit. Initialize about the same time. It has more support for this low here a couple days from now, and then eventually develops pretty good support for the other low of the north of the Caribbean islands, north of the Bahamas, and maybe something in the Gulf of Mexico as well. I think the Euro and DeepMind are the Google DeepMind learned off the Euro model. It has like a year learning period, so because of that, I think they're more likely to be bound to each other as far as what their eventual thinking is with the systems here. So that's those three. That is to say, there's until they actually develop, um, then we'll have a better fix on it, and the models will be have a better idea where these are going to go. Like I said, models don't do well until you actually get a low develop here. So next, I'm going to go over the little bit of analysis of what the difference in the model output is. Okay, so real quickly here, this is 4-panel analysis of the mid-level environment with you can see here you have Gabrielle. This is initialized it. Well, I moved it up to 00Z on 24 September. Gabrielle moving north of Bermuda at this point. Move it forward a few days to the 26th. You could see the system potentially here for all the models except for the GFS was interesting enough develops some kind of vorticity as well here north of the Bahamas. Move it forward a little more in time. See how on the GFS it really does something interesting with this, and all the other models aren't really showing anything here. So I'm not certain where this is coming from, but maybe I'll have to maybe do another analysis just on the GFS here in a minute. Anyway, all the other models want to put a system out here, and they're pretty in good agreement where it's going to be on the 28th. Okay, move through time here. This is the 29th. Another system with the GFS has nothing. It already moved one system up the East Coast. I'd like to think that the GFS is an outlier at this point, but um, if these models are correct, we may be talking about something hitting Bermuda again within the next few days, 7 days or so. So, what's driving this flow? Well, we have large high pressure over the continental U.S. with looks like a cutoff low um, in the southeast. The GFS is by far the strongest member with this cutoff low, where the Canadian is the weakest. And the Canadian really maintains a high pressure to the north here more than any other model, the mid levels, right? But they all show a weakness. You can see how the GFS keeps more of a high pressure in the western Atlantic, whereas there's more weakness on these other models here, where the deep blues and greens are. And we move through time a little bit more. The European kind of the flow just collapses and it keeps the system there, whereas the Canadian lifts it out and curves it. Same with the European AI. And then the GFS is doing its own thing and wanting to develop the Caribbean system way later, right? And then do some kind of funky stuff with a low developing off the coast there. So you can see the flow pattern. I think we're likely to see at least one system develop here in the Caribbean, north of the Caribbean islands, and move close to Bermuda again. There's quite a lot of support for that. What this other system does around the East Coast is definitely more uncertain. I'm going to go over the GFS vorticity chart just to kind of see what it's trying to do with these different systems out here in the tropical Atlantic, and then I'm going to go over briefly the formation chances that are shown by the European ensembles for tropical development. All right, as promised, here is the GFS cyclonic vorticity associated with in the Caribbean, right? This gives us a good idea what the GFS is thinking as far as mid-level um, vortex that could potentially um, lead to cyclogenesis and a low pressure um, develop, right? So we have Gabrielle here. We move forward in time here a little bit till the 24th. And there's looks like a tropical wave there and another one here. There's some other energy here, right? But if you move forward in time, you see the vorticity associated with this north of the Haiti, uh, Dominican Republic, east of the Bahamas. And then just north of the islands here, it wants to really spin up the system, right? And that's what it's doing, right? And then it takes it right up the East Coast. And you can see the flow around this low pressure here. This cutoff low is kind of what's helping steer it between a mid-level high and upper level low to its west. So moving over time here, there's that other tropical wave vorticity. Seems like it's further south than excuse me, the other solutions, right? Uh, and once you do the same thing, you spin it up, and then there's a trough building to its north here. You can see that, and move it out to sea is a very strong system here. So That's what the GFS is doing with this stuff. So remains to be seen if the GFS proves to be right here. But given the model consensus, I think the GFS is an outlier, at least at this point. All right, so here is the European Ensemble tropical system formation probabilities map. Of course, we have Hurricane Gabrielle out here, and um, this is valid Thursday, 25 September, 24 to 72 hours. So formation probabilities, depression are rising here, um, according to the European Ensemble. And then maybe a tropical storm developing, right? And the probabilities actually increase or depression forming here. And you see how the probabilities also increase for this other system over here over time. Not a lot of support from the European for anything coming close to the US, but there is support for depression maybe off the coast of Africa in the long term. So we'll just have to keep an eye on this. It almost acts like it wants to combine these two systems in the long term. We'll just have to see what happens here. That's all for the tropics. Next, I'm going to go over some continental U.S. weather. U.S. Um, you have Gabrielle out here. Looks like flow going up and around, kind of up like this. This is a mid-level water vapor, right? Or upper-level water vapor, sorry. And then we have the upper levels. You can see kind of pushing this way, and also and some embedded short waves or mid-level. Looks like a system right here, pushing this way. And if we look at the radar, you can see where the most convection is going on right now. Highest reds and oranges into the Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, Midwest, into the Great Lakes. Some flow coming in, interestingly enough, off the Pacific here, where the Intermountain West has some showers ongoing this morning. So what's the flow look like right now? If we look at one of the models, which is the GFS, okay. I know the GFS isn't that reliable, but let's to some people don't think it is anyway. This is let's see, initialized 00Z today. This is about the time it is right now. At the mid-levels, you have a mid-level low here off the California coast. This is bringing the moisture in here. And another kink in the flow here, which is going to rotate southward over time. And I'll show you that. Here we go. And the low once the GFS wants to hang this mid-level cutoff low off the California coast. Interesting evolution here. This system eventually gets cut off from the upper level flow as this trough lifts out, and you got a cutoff low developing off in the southeast and mid-level reaching over the middle part of the country. The jet stream is way far north, but this enhancement here we'll just have to see how this plays out. And this is 5 days from now. And we have this tropical system we potentially talked about here off the southeast coast. And you can see what's happening here. The flow between the high pressure out here and this low here is pulling the system this way. So um, that's the flow. I mean, not a lot of ridging overall, but with this zonal flow up into Canada and these mid-level features, stays quite stagnant here quite some time. See what I'm talking about? Through time here, both those systems eventually fill in and we start to get high pressure building in for most of the continental US and maybe some lower heights here. And then GFS has our other tropical system up here, maybe a deep trough developing off the west coast. If this happens, we will likely see, this is crazy, some severe weather. This is way far out. This is in October 7th. Wants to develop a very deep trough, very deep system off this far out, but very uncertain at this point. But going back a little bit, this is the flow I'm going to go up through quickly here, so you can see with this upper level low in the southeast and down here, likely weather is going to be unsettled in the longer term, and the temperature is going to cool off, right? So that being said, what are the current hazards? Not a lot going on today. Fog advisories, some freeze watches. That's really it for the continental US this morning. Not a lot going on. And this is the temps for the next 7 days. 80s and 90s, hundreds in the Texas. Warm, hot in the desert southwest. Cooling off quite a bit in the Rockies here. Day 2, still quite warm in the south. Warmer temps are pushing up to the north in the mid-Atlantic just because of the flow is increasing this way. Likely a front coming through to the southwest being quite hot and cooling off into Texas. Cooling off even more so, staying quite warm just in the southeast here. But then cooling off in the southeast and some mid-level ridging building back in here to the middle part of the country. This is next Friday, or this Friday, sorry. But overall, temperature's not too bad. As far as precip goes, this is a 7-day precip outlook. Most precip is forecast along the Mississippi River Valley. Florida, of course, has been in the mix for a good portion, for a good while now. Southeast still looks to be kind of dry. These yellowish colors, orange, or denote 4, 5, 6 inches of rain in the next 7 days. That's still not terrible. So we look at excessive rainfall. Desert Southwest has a marginal risk. Plains with a slight risk here on the border of Oklahoma. I'm sorry, guys. I have trouble with some of these states. Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley. This is valid today till tomorrow. And then for tomorrow through Wednesday, larger slight risk here in the lower Mississippi Valley. into Oklahoma and extending out into the plains and off the coast of California, west coast here. Uh, you can see what looks like a front starting to come through here, kind of stalling out with the most rainfall expected in the Ohio Valley and surrounding areas, desert Southwest and the California again. Same thing, we have a stalled out front, looks like kind of pushing a little bit further to the east, but not much. And then enhanced flow here, day 4, in the desert Southwest up into Nevada, Arizona. Okay. And day 5, yay, we get some rain along the East Coast and desert Southwest, of course, again. So this is 5 days from now, which is Friday. As far as 6 to 10 day temps look to be above normal for most of the country, which is unfortunate. um, Precip chances above normal for a good portion of the western U.S. and the central U.S. and upper Midwest and the northern High Plains. Look likely below normal. And along the East Coast, the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, likely above normal precip chances. Interestingly enough, 8 to 14 day temp outlook is still above normal for all the country, according to the CPC. Darker reds are higher chances, but overall, unfortunately, when I say cooler temps to the southeast, it doesn't mean it's going to be below normal, but at least not going to be in the hundreds or 90s. All right, as far as the severe weather outlook goes, today we got a slight risk in the middle part of the country in these areas here, surrounded by a larger marginal risk of severe weather. Also in the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi Valley, right? Tornado risk 2% here, Oklahoma, north into the plains here. The highest threat is wind with 50% chance of winds exceeding 50 miles per hour within 25 miles of a point and a 5% risk surrounding it. The same in the upper Mississippi Valley, Ohio Valley, into part of the Great Lakes. Also, hail risk in roughly the same areas where the wind risk is. For tomorrow, this risk moves further south. Looks like maybe a short wave moving through the flow here. Slight risk surrounded by marginal risk and general thunderstorms. Otherwise, 5% tornado risk surrounded by 2% in that area where the slight risk is, and a larger wind risk and also a hail risk. Day 3, marginal risk moving to the east as a cold front sweeps to the south. Okay, so lastly but not least, this is a modeled future radar. Ongoing convection here in the middle part of the country and then the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes and some in the out west here. See where the most rainfall is in storms. Some activity in the Intermountain West going over the Rockies here. What looks like a pretty strong line of storms moving through the Ohio Valley as we get into this evening. Moving to the north, and we have another complex tomorrow early morning moving through. You can see where it sets up here. Looks like the potential for some really intense rotating updrafts here. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But overall, unsettled for the center part of the country and some activity in Florida, which isn't unusual either. They move through the end of the period, 48 hours. The line kind of stretches out, and this is where the chances of excessive rainfall comes in here. That's it for today, guys. Hope you have a great day and God bless.